Hey everyone, welcome to part 5 of this Python app development tutorial series where we are building a mobile application using Python and the kivy library. So if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please do so now and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of these tutorials going forward. So here is what we're going to do in this tutorial. We're just going to now basically finish up some of these screens and start to use some storage engine to start storing our data. So the few screens that we want to just finish off now is we just want to create some custom widgets which we can use on our screens. So one of which is a list item with a checkbox which we can add to our task screen. So to do that, we'll just go over to our kivy language again and we'll create something called list item with checkbox. So this is how you can create custom widgets using kivy language. And basically we'll just say that it has an icon left, widget. So we want to have a little bit of an icon here. So icon root.icon like that. And then we basically just want to write checkbox. Checkbox. And that's basically the widget we wanted to create to have in our list. And now we can go and just define this as a class. So we'll grab another one of these over here. So we'll do something similar to this, but we'll just change it to use a different type. So instead of a screen, we are going to be using a one-line avatar icon list item. Like that. And basically we will just set the property of our icon. So it's going to be icon is equal to string property Android, like that. Then the next thing we want to do is we want to just set up this write checkbox. So we need to create a class for that. So we'll just copy this out and we'll create a write checkbox. So we'll just do that. And then we'll just do a pass and we'll just inject some variables. So we want to inject something called iWrite body touch. iWrite body touch. And we also want to just bring in the MD checkbox. So with this, we're going to have to start including just a few other things. So we'll have to basically bring in some icons and also some checkboxes. So to do that, we'll just grab these and I'm going to explain to you what it is. So I'm just going to paste them in here. So basically it's that iWrite body touch that we brought in. We brought in this one-line avatar icon list item, the checkbox, and the icons we can use. So that's basically that. And then what we need to do is also bring in string property, which we used in one of our classes. So kivy property, string property. So now what we need to do is we need to actually start building up some type of list. So to do that, we can just start off with creating some additional code, which will allow us to just display these tasks using our new widget that we created. So we'll do that in our task screen class, basically. So here we'll go and we'll just create something called onPre-enter. So before we actually enter the screen, it will execute this code and try and fill in some data for us. So we'll get rid of this def build. We'll start by defining a onPre-enter like this, and then we pass in self. Now what we can do is we can get a task list and then we can just clear that list. So basically we'll do self dot IDs dot task list dot clear widgets. So we're getting rid of all the tasks in the window before we actually load it up, just to make sure we are reloading all the tasks. Then what we'll do is we'll basically go ahead and read out of our DB. So we need to create a DB for ourselves. and we'll use basically a JSON store for that. So to do that, we're going to have to include or import JSON store. So we'll go all the way up to the top here, and we'll go ahead and basically from kivy storage dot storage like so dot JSON store, we will import a JSON store like that. So this will just allow us to store data in a JSON file, which makes it quite nice to use. So before we get down to this portion of the code where we're going to modify it, we just want to instantiate this DB. So we'll do DB JSON store, and we'll just call this tasks.json. So now we have a database which we can use as a file, and then we can actually modify data within that and create some tasks. So before we do all of this displaying, we want to actually start to get some tasks into our task.json file. So we need to basically add some logic to create tasks. So in task, basically add task screen, we're going to define a new function here, or new method called def add task, and that will take in self, and we'll then be able to just add a task to our database. So to do that, we'll just go ahead and do db.put, and we can use that UUID which we included earlier to create a unique ID, and we'll just use uid1.int, and we can now just put in the task name, so name like this, and then we'll use self.ids.task name. So I'll show you where we get that from, and we'll use the text of that. So where we get that from is basically when we defined our task screen, we created this task name. So now we can access it using self and then getting the task name text, and we can now put it into our database. So now what we'll do is we'll just transition away from this back to our task list. So we'll use self.theScreenManager, and we'll make the current screen equal to our task screen. So we'll just copy it from here and put that in there. So that will allow us now to add a task to our database. Now we want to actually go and display this in our task screen. So first we cleared out all the widgets so that we don't have any widgets. And I just want to spell that correctly, otherwise we're going to have an error. And then what we'll do is we'll loop over them. So basically we'll go key, and we'll have an item, and in db.find. So we'll find everything inside of our db, and now we can add them as widgets. So we'll do self.ids on task list dot add widget, and then we can pass in some parameters. So we created this list item with checkbox, so we can add it to our list. So we'll use list item with checkbox. We'll put in the text, which will be the f function of basically the item that we just got, item.get, and we'll basically get the name, and then we'll use the icon with the pen. So we'll just do icon pen like this, and then we can basically save that off. Now what we can do is we can try and run this. Let's try and run this quickly and see if it works. Test.py, and just give it a second to run. So while we wait for that, I'm just going to make sure we've got all the code in here. So we had icon pin, that's fine, that's fine. And we have this list item checkbox that we added as a custom widget. And our application is running, so now we can log in and we can go ahead and try and add some tasks. So basically we'll add, and then we can just put in any value you want. And as you see, it doesn't add the task. So we've forgotten to do something. So let's just close this off and see what we forgot to do. So basically we didn't create a method to call when we click on this flat button, so we need to go and add that in to fix this. So what we'll do is we need to basically just do an onPress event, so onPress like that, and then what we'll do is we'll just call root.addTask. So why we use root is because we basically define the add task method on this add task screen. So if you go and have a look again, you'll see that we created it here. So that's why it will use the root. The other thing we need to do is we need to basically change this so that it actually uses the input that we type for our login, but we'll do that at the end of this tutorial. I'm just going to show you how to do that. And we're not going to do it now because it's going to make it difficult for us to test our application, because we'll have to type in these login details each time. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to run this and we're going to see if this works. So give it a few minutes. It's a little slow at the moment. I'm just going to close up some of these folders here. I'm going to go into the folder where we are running our application so that we can see if it's going to create our database JSON file. So I'm basically in this mobile app tutorial folder over here. So we're basically going to hopefully see this get created in this folder. So it's still running. I actually need to do a system reboot. That's why this is going so slowly, but let's see how far we get. We click login, and we click add, and we try this now. You'll see that something is now completely failing out. So there's basically been an error. Let's just see what it is. So on touchdown, a whole bunch of errors here. Let's just see what it created in tasks. So I did create the task name. So it could be that it's just missing some data right now. So we use getName over here. List item with checkbox is not defined. So let's just make sure we did this correctly. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to go find it like that. And then let's just see where we defined it. List item with checkbox. And we had a right checkbox. We had an icon over here. So let's just see why that would be failing. So right checkbox. So it could be it's just this uppercase over here, which is creating problems. Just need to make sure that you case your things correctly. So I'm going to make this a B like that. And then also down here, I'm going to do the same thing. So we'll just do this and make sure that our class name is the same as well. So list item with checkbox, and it's all exactly the same now. And let's try and run this again. I'm going to pause the video because it's going to take a while to actually load this, and I'll start the video again when it's loaded. So we're back. Let's just log in and test this out. Basically, you'll see that we have this task, we have this checkbox, and we can try and add another task. So let's just make this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, add a task, and you'll see that it's created another task. So basically, that's how you can build a task manager using Python and Kivy, and then creating it as a mobile application. So that's basically it for this tutorial. The only thing I'm going to show you now is that you can basically introduce the full login by just adding this line of code. So basically it's going to get the username value, password value from our fields, from our kivy language, and then rather use those values when trying to do the request to the API. So this is basically the end of the tutorial. In the next tutorial, I'm just going to show you how to build an APK for your mobile device, and then you'll be able to deploy this on your mobile device and maybe even put it onto the App Store. So thanks guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.